chapter 2. In Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar fell asleep one night. Nothing wrong with going to sleep. Nebuchadnezzar fell asleep. Everybody needs some sleep. But on this particular night, okay. All right, equipment trying to mess up. All right. On this particular night, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He had this strange dream that troubled him. So the next morning, he got up, but he couldn't remember the dream. Anybody ever had a dream and couldn't remember it the next day? There was something about this dream that troubled Nebuchadnezzar. He could not remember what the dream was, but it troubled him so much that he decided to call his psychics and his astrologers in to help him with the dream. Notice what the Bible says in Daniel 2 and verse 1 says, and in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled and his sleep brake from him. In other words, he couldn't sleep. Verse 2 says, then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers. Call the who? The magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldees, for to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king. So the king had this dream, but he could not remember what the dream was. So he called his wise men, he called his astrologers, he called his palm readers, he called his psychics, he called his magicians in, and he wanted to understand what the dream was. Verse 3, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Nebuchadnezzar did not understand nor remember the dream he had. But he was troubled by that fact because there was something about that dream that was different from the other dreams that he had. This was not one I ate too much dreams. Every now and then we eat too much and we have them crazy dreams. We go to bed after we ate that big old hamburger, whole big old meal, and we're dreaming all kind of crazy stuff. But this was not one of those ate too much dreams. This was not one of those ate too many Big Mac dreams and too many fries and too many drinks from McDonald's. No. This dream troubled him. So he called in his wise men and he said to them, tell me the dream. And they said to the king, they said, you tell us the dream and we'll tell you its meaning. O king, live forever, tell thy servants the dream and we will show the interpretation. In verse 5, the king tells the wise men that if they did not reveal to him the dream and its meaning, that they will be cut to pieces. Now this was an amazing request here. He's calling someone in to tell him the dream that he had, and not only tell him the dream, but to tell him what the dream meant. And he couldn't remember the dream, and he wanted somebody who didn't have the dream to tell him what the dream was and what the dream meant. That just messed up all his little psychic hotline, all his little wise men. If you read verses 6 through 11, you will see that Nebuchadnezzar, his wise men, didn't have a clue as to what the king had dreamt. They didn't have a clue. They were not in his head. They could not get in his head. They had not had the dream. So when the king asked them to tell him what the dream was and what the dream meant, they were dumbfounded. No one had ever made such a request of anyone. And they finally admitted, they said, king, listen, you tell us the dream and we'll tell you the meaning of it. And the king said, no, the thing is gone from me. I need you to tell me what the dream is and tell me the meaning. They said no one ever asked of their servants such a thing such as this. And the king began to get upset. He said, if y'all can't tell me what the dream is and y'all can't tell me the meaning, I know y'all ain't nothing but liars. Y'all ain't nothing but fakes. Y'all just trying to stall and buy time. So the king got upset. And in his anger, the king decided that since these wise men were fake, they deserved to die. So he gave the command to have them killed. He gave the command to have them taken out. But when Daniel found out that they were to be killed, he went in before the king and he asked the king if he would give him some time, and he would tell him the dream and tell him the interpretation. Now that's a bold statement made by Daniel. He had not heard the dream. He had not seen the dream. He had not heard what the dream was. But Daniel goes in before the king because the decree had gone forth that the wise men, those magicians, those astrologers, they should be executed. And when Daniel found out about it, Daniel went in before the king and said, listen, king, why is the decree so hasty? If you would just give me some time, I will tell you what the dream was, and I will tell you the meaning of the dream. And the king consented. He consented to give Daniel a little time. Now, this is in your lesson. And I'm about to give you an answer to your question. Having been granted his request, what did Daniel do? Daniel did something. Daniel made known the thing to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He got with his friends, told them what was going on. Why did he tell them what was going on? Because he wanted somebody to join him in prayer. He told them that they would desire the mercies of the God of heaven concerning the secret. Daniel understood that prayer makes a difference. What makes a difference? Prayer makes a difference. And Daniel understood this. So he gathered his friends together and he said, I need y'all to join me in prayer. So they joined him in prayer. And something happened. Something happened that night while Daniel slept. While Daniel slept, God gave him the same dream that he had given Nebuchadnezzar. The same dream that God had put in the head of Nebuchadnezzar as Nebuchadnezzar slept, woke up, and had forgotten the dream. God now puts that same dream in the head of Daniel while Daniel is sleeping. So when Daniel wakes up, Daniel praises, Daniel blesses and praises God for revealing the dream to him. He enumerated several things that the dream tells about the God of heaven. Or he explains or elaborates on 7 things that the dream reveals about the God of heaven. What are those things? Well, one of those things is that the God of heaven, he changes times and seasons. It is he who changes. It is he who changes the winter to the spring. It is he who changes the spring to the summer. It is he who changes the summer to the fall. He changes time and seasons. No one else can do that. So Daniel, in his praise to God, Daniel said he changes times and seasons. Not only that, but he removes kings and set up kings. That he has the ability to take men down and he has the ability to set people up. Not only does he remove kings and set up kings, he gives wisdom unto the wise. Those who are wise, he had given them the wisdom. He gives wisdom to the wise so that they can be wise and not otherwise. Not only does he give wisdom to the wise, but he gives knowledge to them that know understanding. He does what? He gives knowledge to them that know understanding. He goes on to say he reveals the deep and secret things. The things that people do not understand, he reveals them. And I just believe tonight that God is getting ready to reveal some deep and secret things. As we study the prophecies of the word of God, you will discover that God is revealing some deep and secret things, things that you have not known before, things that you have not heard before, things that people don't talk about because they have been a secret. But God reveals to his people, to his chosen, to those who are called. He reveals to them the deep and secret things. It's not an accident that you're here tonight. It's not an accident that you've been coming to this meeting. God has directed your step. He has ordered your course so that you could be here, because he has chosen you to reveal to you the deep and secret things. Not only that, but he knows what is in the darkness. You know, sometimes we can look outside in the nighttime and we cannot tell what's going on out there. We cannot even see out there. Sometimes it's so dark, especially if there's no street light in front of our house. We might look out of the window and it's just pitch black out there and we can't see what's out there. But with God, the Bible is clear that he knows what is in the darkness. You all not hear me up in here. Maybe. Let me just tell you this. I'm trying to. I do want to teach this lesson, but I am a preacher by calling. So every now and then I'll slip out of the teaching mode and slip into the preaching mode. But if I slip into the preaching mode, I'm coming back to the teaching mode. So just hold on with me and say, oh, he done slipped off. He coming back. But he knows what's in the darkness. The day and the night are alike to him. He doesn't need any special glasses for the night. He doesn't need any night goggles. He sees through the darkness just as clear as he sees through the light. Not only that, but the light dwelleth in him. That's why darkness cannot overtake him. Light dwelleth in him. Everywhere he goes, he just lights the place up. Light dwelleth in him. What Daniel is trying to reveal as he is praising God is that God is in control of human events and situations. You might have a situation that appears to be out of control. I want to tell you tonight, it might be out of your control, but it is not out of God's control. God still controls the events and the affairs of man. All right. Let's go on. Let me go on because we got to get to the story. Oh yeah. We got to get to what happened here. So, Daniel goes in before King Nebuchadnezzar after he's finished praising God. You see, notice the procession here. In verses 1 through 13, there was the problem. The king had a dream, but he could not understand it. And then there was a progression from there. Daniel took that problem and made it a part of his petition, or he prayed about it. So there was the problem, then there was the praying. And after he prayed about it, there was the answer. So it started out being a problem. It progressed to a petition or a prayer. And after he prayed about it, God gave him the answer. And after God gave him the answer, he praised God. Now, sometimes we don't get to the praise part. Sometimes we just stop at the answer. We have the problem. We go to God and say, God, I need you to work this thing out. I need you to help me with this. And God helps us, and we forget to give him glory and praise. But Daniel went through the whole process. After God had blessed him and after God had revealed to him, he turns around and he gives God praise for what he had done. We would do well to give God praise for the blessing that he bestows upon us. Now, after Daniel had received the answer, Daniel goes in before the king. He goes in before the king and he says something to the king that's very startling in verse 27 and 28. In Daniel chapter 2, verses 27 and 28, Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king has demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king? Daniel goes in before the king and said, listen here. The astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, they can't show this thing to the king. Then he goes on to say something very profound in verse 28. He says, but there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets and has made known what will be in the latter days. So what Daniel is telling Nebuchadnezzar is that what he saw in the dream has to do with what's going to take place in the latter days. Something that is going to take place in the future. Are we still together, or did you fall asleep on me? All right. Are we still together? If we're still together, let me hear you say amen, because I don't want to. All right. I don't want you to get lost, because if you get lost here, you'll never catch up. He said, but there's a God in heaven who reveals his secrets, and he has made known what it be in the latter days. Then Daniel begins reminding the king what he had seen in the dream. He said to the king, he said, King, you saw a great image. This image was massive. This image had a head of gold. Its breasts and arms were of silver. Its thighs were of brass. Their legs were of iron. The feet were of iron and part clay. You saw a stone come out of nowhere and smash the image on the feet, break it to pieces. Then that stone grew and filled the whole earth. That's what the king saw in his dream. Daniel now, he reveals to the king what he had witnessed in his dream, what he had dreamed about, and now he is getting ready to give the meaning or the interpretation of the dream. Daniel said to Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 2:37 and 38. Oh, this thing, get on past there. He begins to get the interpretation. He says to him, King, you are this head of gold. In other words, your nation, Babylon, is represented by this head of gold that you saw on this image. But it doesn't stop there. You see, if you read in the history books, you will read about the nation of Babylon. And what is being laid out here is that between that time and the time of the end, there will be 4 world rulers. There will be how many? 4 world rulers. And the first world ruler would be Babylon. Babylon was represented by the head of gold. When Daniel told the king this, when the king had this dream, Babylon was the ruler of the world. Babylon was a sophisticated place. It had its own postal system. Yeah, even back then. It had its own postal service. It had its own army. It had a wall. Walls were high and massive and wide, so wide that you can ride 2 or 3 chariots of horses on the top of the walls, not just down on the city ground, but up on the walls. It was wide enough to ride 2 or 3 chariots of horses on the wall. And the king had laid that place out with gold. And so it is befitting that he was represented by the head of gold. So Daniel goes and says to the king, he says, King, thou art this head of gold. Babylon ruled, and you can read it in the history, you can Google it or whatever you want to do. But Babylon ruled the world from 605, or some say 606, but 605 to 539 BC. It was the ruler of the entire world. And I said that what God is revealing to Daniel is the number of world rulers that will rule before he set up his kingdom. Now, the prophecy continues because there was something else that was to take place. There was another nation that was represented here. And that nation was represented by the portion of the image that was made of silver, whose arms, you can barely see that, huh? Whose arms and chest was of silver. That represented the nation that would rise up after Babylon. That would which shall rule over the earth. The next nation to be the world power after Medo-Persia was a nation called Greece. Now, you probably read about Greece in your history book. It had a leader called Alexander the Great. You ever heard about Alexander the Great? He was the leader of the Grecian Empire. And Greece ruled the world after Medo-Persia. As a matter of fact, history reveals that Alexander the Great conquered more than 22,000 miles of territory and never lost a battle. 22,000 miles of territory and never lost a battle. And guess what he did after he had conquered the whole world? After he conquered the whole world, he drank himself to death because there was nothing left to conquer. He became depressed and drank his stupid self to death because there was no more world for him to conquer. So Greece had some mighty warriors, but Greece did not last. Greece ruled from 331 to 168 BC. The prophecy continues and gives us more information because the Bible talks about another kingdom represented by the legs of iron. The Bible tells us that there will be a fourth kingdom of iron. Says finally there will be a fourth kingdom strong as iron, for iron breaking smashes everything. This fourth kingdom was going to be tough. It was going to be hard. It was represented by iron. Historians recognize Rome following in this sequence. After Greece, Rome became the next world power. Rome ruled from 168 BC to the mid-4th century AD. As a matter of fact, Rome ruled when Jesus walked the earth. Remember the Roman soldier was there at the cross, stuck him in the side with the spear. Rome was ruling during the time when Jesus walked on the earth. As a matter of fact, the Romans, crucifying people was a specialty of the Romans. This is why when the Jews wanted Jesus crucified, when they wanted to get rid of Jesus, they didn't decide they were going to kill him themselves. They said to the Romans, they said to the governor, crucify him. When he said, what will you have me to do with this Jesus? They said, crucify him, crucify him. They understood that the Romans were specialists in crucifying. They had Jesus crucified, but Rome would rule, but Rome would not last forever. Daniel 41 tells us that whereas you saw the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. The kingdom of Rome was predicted in the Bible to be divided. And just as the Bible predicted, history records that when Rome fell, it was divided into several different parts. As a matter of fact, there were 10 barbarian tribes that came from Eastern and Western Europe, and they overthrew Rome and they occupied its territory. These tribes formed what is known today as Europe. Now, they would not be a world power. They would not be a world leader. But the Bible tells us, represented by these toes, mixed of part iron and clay, the Bible tells us that it will not be they would not be strong. They would try to hold themselves together, but it will not work. Some of those tribes that came down, they are in existence today. They're just under different names: the Germans, the Swiss, the French, the Italians, the English, the Portuguese, and Spanish. And some of those original 10, they are now extinct. And we're going to find out why they are extinct when we get to Daniel chapter 7. But when Rome was divided, these barbarian tribes came and they took over and they formed what is called Europe. Anybody ever heard of Europe? and the Bible tells us something about those that was represented by the toes. In your lesson, you had a question that says, will the European continent ever be united again? Well, the answer to that is a resounding no. Because God said so. God said they will mingle themselves with the seed of men. They shall not cleave together to one another. They shall not stick. Just like iron and clay cannot mix, they will not be able to unite together. And even today, there are problems in Europe. You remember the UK just pulled out of the EU? United Kingdom just pulled out of the European Union. There's always been some stuff going on in Europe. And they have tried throughout history, men have tried to unite Europe, but they have all failed. King Frederick and Queen Diana, they tried to unite Europe, but they failed. They tried and they failed. One after the other, they tried to unite it, but they failed. Hitler tried, but they failed. One by one, they all failed to unite the kingdom. Now, in Daniel 2, we have the outline of the nations that will rule the world before God sets up his everlasting kingdom. We have the four world rulers: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then Rome divided, which was taken over and it became Europe, formed into Europe. The Bible is clear that there will only be four world rulers. Now, we have superpowers today, but they're not world rulers. The U.S. is a superpower, but the U.S. does not rule the world. Russia is a superpower, but Russia does not rule the world. China is a superpower, but China does not rule the world. There will not be another world ruler until Daniel here is laying out through prophecy what would take place throughout the years. And when we get to Daniel chapter 5, we're going to see how Medo-Persia came in and overtook Babylon. And we're going to continue to read, and we'll see how Greece came in and overtook that. But the Bible lays it out and laid it out many years before it happened, which says to me that you can trust the Bible. If God said it, you can believe it. Somebody ought to say amen up in here. If God said it, you can believe it. You can take it to the bank and cash it and not worry about it bouncing. If God said it, he can bring it to pass. All of these nations, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, all of these nations have risen and fallen. Well, preacher, what's next? I'll tell you what's next. The question was asked in your lesson on question 24. Who will set up the final kingdom? You want to know what's the next kingdom to rise? It is a kingdom of our God. The God of heaven, the Bible is clear, shall set up a kingdom. Not just any kind of kingdom, not just a temporary kingdom, but an everlasting kingdom. A kingdom that has no end. In Daniel 2:44 it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever, represented by the stone that came out and smote the image on the feet and tore the whole thing down. When Jesus comes to set up his kingdom, the earth is going to crumble. All of the nations are going to fall flat. It's going to be destroyed. God is going to set up his kingdom, a kingdom that has no end. Somebody ought to be excited. That's the next thing. That's the next kingdom. Wondering what's going to take place next. All of that stuff has come and it's happened. They're risen, they're fallen. They're risen, they're fallen. The only thing that has not happened, the only kingdom that has not been set up is the kingdom of the God of heaven. And he has promised. He has promised that he's going to set his kingdom up. It shall be an everlasting kingdom. I don't know about you, but I want to be ready and I want to be a part of his kingdom. What about you out there? He's going to set up the kingdom, the everlasting kingdom, represented by that stone that filled the whole earth. The next thing you know, brothers and sisters, don't get all confused and twisted by all this mess that's going on in this world today. Don't get all faked out because it seems like certain people's lives don't mean as much as other people's lives. Don't get all faked out because the police is at odds and stopping the little brown people and shooting them down like dogs. Don't get out all odds because God is going to set the record straight. God is going to set up his kingdom. God is going to bring an end to the mess down here. I don't know about you, but I'll be glad when he does. Let me say that again. I don't know about you. I'll be glad when he does. And all of the prophecy and all of the things that are happening in this world today tells me that it is sooner than people believe. It is sooner than people realize. As a matter of fact, it is soon than people, many people are going to be caught unaware. They're going to be caught by surprise. But God has brought you out here so that you can understand, so that you can be aware, so that you can make preparations to meet him in peace. He's calling his people. He's calling his people to a higher standard of living. He's calling his people to walk in the ways that are of righteousness. He's calling his people. Do you not know how many flyers went out? We had this thing all on the radio for almost 2 weeks. We had it on several radio stations. We passed out thousands of flyers inviting people to come to the meeting. But God chose you. He chose you, and he chose you for a reason. Thank be to God that you were obedient to his voice. Do you know how many doors the Bible counselors knocked on? They knocked on some of your door. They came by your house and knocked on your door, asked if they could study with you because they were on a mission, a divine assignment from the God of heaven. Because God wanted to reach you. God wanted you to understand what is about to go down and what has already happened so that you can be ready. And thanks be to God, you were obedient to his voice and you responded to his leading. Well, I guess the Lord wants you to see that one more time. All right, let's get ready to deal with the response question. Let's get ready to take the quiz. Let's get ready to take the quiz. Take your quiz card out. On your quiz card, you have 4 boxes across on the right side, on the top. The question says, if the lesson is clear to you, put a check in box number 1. If you understood the lesson, put a check in box number 1. If it is your desire to be ready to meet Jesus, when the stone kingdom smashes the image, place a check in box number 2. If it is your desire to be ready to meet Jesus when he set up his kingdom, Put an X in box number 2. Finally, listen to me closely. If the lesson was confusing to you, put an X in box number 3. This is to help me to gauge how you're grasping it and to let me know whether or not I need to change the approach of the teaching method because everyone does not learn the same way. So if the message was confusing to you, put an X in box number 3. All right. We're doing good on time. Let's get ready to take this easy quiz. Yes, there are 3 boxes across there. There's box number 1, box number 2, box number 3. Box number 1, if you understood the lesson, check box 1. If you plan to be ready or want to be ready when Jesus comes to set up his kingdom, box number 2. If the lesson was confusing to you, box number 3. All right, let's get ready to take this easy quiz. And we're going to be ready to go home. Make sure you have your name on your quiz so we will know who deserves the A, B, C, D, or E. Anyone need a pencil or something to write with? Does anyone need a card? Just raise your hand and they will give you the card. All right, everyone has a card. Everyone has your name on it. All right, we ready for the easy quiz? All right, here we go. True or false? Real easy. Question number 1. The head of gold on the image represented the nation of Babylon. True or false? The head of gold on the image represented the nation of Babylon. True or false? I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. Everybody know that's true or false. If you don't know, make an educated guess. You got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. All right, we're ready for question number 2? Question number 2. The king's magicians and astrologers were able to explain the king's dream. Question number 2. The king's magicians and astrologers were able to explain the king's dream. True or false? Real easy quiz tonight. Real easy quiz. Question number 3. The breast and arms of silver on the image represented the nation of Greece. Question number 3. The breast and arms of silver on the image represented the nation of Greece. True or false? How many got them all right so far? Got them all right? All right, very good. Which one? Number 3? Question number 3. The breast and arms of silver on the image represented the nation of Greece. True or false? Question number 4. The U.S. will be the next world ruler. Question number 4. Can y'all hear me back there? Y'all looking like scoring? All right, let me say it loud. Let me say it loud and clear because I don't want you to miss it. Question number 4. The U.S. will be the next world ruler. Somebody said they're going to make the nation great again. Question number 4. The U.S. will be the next world ruler. True or false? Question number 5. Last of the easy questions. Europe will be united in the future. Question number 5. Europe will be united in the future. This quiz was so easy, I almost feel bad about giving it to you. Do you need to hear it again? Question number 1. You all not listening to me, y'all think it's a trick question. Y'all not paying attention, you think it's a trick. Question number 1. The head of gold represented the nation of Babylon. Now, how many know you got them all right? No doubt in your mind you got them all right. Now, some of you said that last time, but all right. How many know you got at least 4 right? All right, 3. Okay, anything less than 3, you're going to have to do a retake, or you need to see me or what have you. But I'm just confident because the quiz was so easy and because you're such intelligent students that you all did well. And we will find out on tomorrow night because we will review tonight's quiz on tomorrow night. Okay, we just need to do a couple of things very quickly. We're getting ready to collect the quiz cards. If you have an offering you want to put in the quiz envelope, we'll go ahead and let's take our offering up this time and the quiz card at the same time. You heard me say that if you don't have an offering, don't worry about it. It's not about money. But you have an offering, the Lord is impressing you to put an offering in there, then it helps defray the cost of building rentals and things so that we can continue.